Welcome to Unapologetic and Free.
I'm Shar.
I'm Lekia.
We're sisters by blood
and friends by choice. Good. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Excited about today's show.
I'm excited because we have a very special guest with us.
I'm more excited than you are because it's my daughter. So
yay!
My oldest daughter, Kamiyah Brown, to the show today. Say hi to our listeners.
Hello.
Thank you for being here.
It's so simple, you guys.
She is. I mean,
so what are we talking about today?
So today we are talking about parenting. And so I just want to say, y'all know I always have some kind of disclaimer, right? Like, this has been a long time coming since last season, right? We talked about having the parenting episode and we've been trying. Y'all, we get warfare behind this Unapologetic and Free. So please don't think that this is just something we just do effortless. We do. And so we're finally able to get one of our adult children on the show so that we can go ahead and talk about parenting.
But as we always do with every show, what are you watching?
And
so
we always
is a segment that we like to do where we go around and just talk about what we're watching to give us maybe some new ideas of shows that we've never thought about. Or, you know, Lekia is a creature of habit, so she watched the same shows. But this is an opportunity for us to see what each other is watching. So I'll go first. So what am I currently watching? I am currently watching a show on Netflix called Monsters Inside Me. And it's about a guy who has 24 different personalities. And so he claims that one of his personalities was responsible for being a serial rapist. So I'm just trying to, it's like multi-parts to see exactly like how it ends.
Now, is this drama? Is this real life, true crime?
This is true crime documentary. So real life, yeah.
Okay. Kamiyah, what about you? What are you watching?
I just started watching a show called The Resident. It's a medical show about a hospital and the procedures and nurses and doctors and everything going on there. And The Bachelorette. Gotta always watch The Bachelorette when that comes around. A lot of drama, a lot of craziness. I love it.
Yes. So Conrad Hawkins, The Resident. I'm a faithful Resident watcher. I'm waiting on the new series to come. So again, I am familiar with the show and I do like The Resident. Again, I know Conrad is like one of the key actors on the show, one of the main doctors. And so I like The Resident.
I'm a faithful Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, she only watches Grey's Anatomy. I mean, I watch Chicago Med, The Resident, all kind of different doctors.
I am watching, oh my God. Oh my God, it'll come back to me. But it's a spinoff of Grey's Anatomy with the fire station. Station
19. Yeah. So I am watching The Con. And The Con is narrated by Whoopi Goldberg, and they talk about different cons. And this last one that I watched just recently was about a coupon conner. A lady was making fake coupons and she was selling them. She had this whole little enterprise going. And the thing about it and why it was so interesting is because it was like couponing in this particular con was not a victimless crime. Because you think, okay, what's the big deal with fake coupons? Well, the stores have to pay for that. Like the companies of these coupons that are giving these discounts, they're not just free discounts. Like somebody's paying for that. So when you go to the store and you use this coupon to buy one, get one free, the agencies or wherever the coupon came from, they have money allotted for that. So when people are using, right? I didn't either. So when people are using fake coupons, it costs money in the long run. And so basically how she got found out was somebody reported her. Somebody reported her to the feds that she was running this scam. And so they just started investigating her. It just talked about all of what they had to go through. She was mad. She created like her own company and then was mailing stuff to herself. But look, she wasn't mailing it at the post office. She was going and taking the stuff, putting it in her mailbox, and then going and getting it out of the mailbox somehow and making it look like she was mailing herself this stuff. So it was weird. It was crazy, but
because if she would have used the post office, then that would have been a federal offense too.
But they still got her. They still got her for mail fraud. Something about because they got her on camera taking the stuff to the mailbox and then going and getting it out of the mailbox. So they were still able to get her on that. So
that's crazy.
That's what I'm watching.
What channel was that on?
I want to say NBC but I watch everything on Hulu, y'all. Even though I have cable, I very rarely watch the shows when they come on. And so I watch it on Hulu. So I don't know what show or what network it comes on. So,
okay.
All right, so let's get into this. Let's get into parenting. And again, in true unapologetic and freestyle, when we talk about any topic, we always like to kind of do research, try to find out what's out there. What is, we like to say the textbook definition of things. And so I looked up what is parenting, right? That's what we're talking about. And so the Merriam-Webster's dictionary for parenting, it says, it's the raising of a child by its parents. It's also the process of becoming a parent. And then it also says the taking care of someone in the manner of a parent.
Oh, that's good. I like how you worded it.
Right. And so there's several different, definitions of parenting, right? The key on what I got out of the latter part of taking care of someone in the manner of a parent, that suggests, right, that may not be the biological, may not be the legal, but I'm taking this child on and I'm taking care of them as if I were their parent, right?
Yes.
And so what do we think about when we think about parenting? So Shar, what do you think about when you think about when somebody says parenting, just in your own opinion?
I just think of, especially coming from a teacher point of view, because I feel like is taking care of or being responsible for somebody. Because as a teacher, I'm parenting kids all day, every day, even if because they didn't biologically come from me, doesn't mean that I don't play a significant role in their lives. So parenting is just taking care of somebody, giving them care, attention, stability.
Right. And to your point, nowadays, that parent, that word is not just defined as the parent, again, the one who, the biological, right, who gave birth,
Right.
But again, caring, that care. And so even in that, I think as we even define parenting, we have to have a level of care, right? So again, if we're going to say we're parenting, if we're going to say we're a parent, then one of those prerequisites
is that you care.
Got to care, right? What do you think, Kamiyah? What's parenting in your opinion?
I absolutely agree with you guys that it's a lot about responsibility and that caring aspect. Because I don't have any kids of my own, but I am a dog mom. So I like to say that I'm responsible for another living being that I can't just leave hanging. He can't do anything by himself. So I like to look at that point. And also like just the teaching aspect that you're talking about, Shar, that it's not necessarily someone you gave birth to, or not even necessarily someone who has to be younger than you. Like sometimes you can be teaching and guiding someone who's older or the same age. And at work, I have to do that a lot. I'm a team lead. I'm in charge of a lot of people. So it's like I may not be parenting per se, but I care about them. And I'm showing them a way to get something done. You know?
Those are some excellent examples.
Okay, I'm like, go ahead. Go ahead and bring
dog mom too. Like you're parenting and then you're helping me. Because, I'm not a dog mom, but, it's funny that you say that they can't do anything. So yes, you are having to be responsible for them. And that's just parenting in a different way.
But here's the thing. She helps me in an aspect of why I don't want pets. Like that is literally the reason why when I'm asked, Why don't you have pets? Because that's another responsibility. And I don't want the responsibility. I love pets. I mean, people who have pets, they're cute. Every now and then I get the itch and I'm like, oh, but then it goes back to, I don't want to have to feed them. I don't want to have to train them when I want to get up and go, right? Because that's the thing about having little children, right? That, oh, I can't go where I want to go because I have these children. And then it's like, traveling, right? You got to find somewhere for the dog to go, because to Kamiyah's point, they can't feed themselves, they can't take care of themselves, right? Somebody's got to do that stuff. And so that's why I don't have pets, because of that.
Yes, very good, very good. All right, so the types of parents. This leads us into our next topic. And now we get to add dog parent. Okay.
I didn't even think about that. So yeah.
Exactly. So we have biological, step parents, foster parents, adoption parents, grandparents, and now pet parent.
Yeah, because we can't even just say dog, right? All pets. So
pet parent. Okay. So I, identify as a biological parent.
You have been? No, huh?
Oh,
okay.
No, biological parent and grandparent.
Yes.
A biological parent and a grandparent.
Now you have been a pet parent before. Y'all had pets.
I have been a pet parent. Yes, I have. I've had dogs. I've had cats, snakes, fish, turtles. So yes, I can identify as being a pet parent.
So you mentioned being a grandparent, but what do you go by? What do your grandkids call you?
Queenie. They call me Queenie. So yeah.
So no grandma.
No grandma, no Meemaw, no Queenie.
I like it.
So which ones do you identify with?
I was going to say, so I definitely identify with the biological. I have been and am considered step parent. And technically, because my daughter who is with us is a pet parent, I feel like I'm a pet grandparent.
Right.
Look, I've never met my pet child in person, but I've seen pictures.
Okay.
So yeah.
Kamiyah, you already know now.
Yeah, well, definitely just a pet parent, no biological kids here yet. But there is something that maybe falls under one of the other names, a little umbrella, but like I feel like when you have younger siblings, you kind of fall into a role of helping parent them a little bit, especially when, you got to help your parents out. They have work and stuff like that. And I just got a new sibling fresh out of the belly. So
that isn't a very good perspective. I'm glad you brought that up, because as we have this conversation, I feel like that was important to even come up, because as we talk about parenting, right, and the responsibility of the parents, and sometimes, to your point, Kamiyah, having those adult children, not even adult children, right? And a lot of times it's the older sibling, right? Even before they're adults, tend to have to be the one. And I hate to say have to, but again, this is unapologetic and free. And we know that there are situations where those older siblings have to pick up the load and the responsibility of taking care of the children that they didn't have, right?
Yeah. Because the parents are out there working, doing what they got to do to provide for the kids. So the older siblings take on that role.
Right. Yes, now, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, Kamiyah, because again, it's up to you. But did you welcome that task, or do you feel like there was times where you may have felt stressed, or you may have felt like, I don't want to do this?
Well, I'm sure every older sibling will tell you the same. They didn't want to take care of that younger sibling. They get out of my face. You're just go sit down somewhere. Every older sibling tell you. I bet Shar could tell you about Lekia. She didn't want her in her face all the time. Go sit down somewhere. But it's a bond you have with your sibling at the end of the day. So it's like, it's something you think you mind in the moment, but as you grow up and you realize you miss those years of spending with them, and it wasn't really all that much. Maybe you had to cancel a plan with a friend or something, but at the end of the day, you made a memory with your sibling.
Yes,
Because that's
yes.
funny you said that because Sharnae used to not like to go, hated that she had to bring me along, right? So if she went somewhere, I had to go. And so even, I think it's funny, even as adults, a lot of her friends are my friends, but
And
it's
her
because
friends
of
are my
her, right? So like because of us being together or saying, okay, well, if I come, my sister's coming. And even as adults, we do that. Even there's a lot of times where it's like, okay, so if I'm involved, then she's involved, right?
vice
And
versa.
so vice versa. And so a lot of my friends are her friends because we were together so much that, and so very, very good point that you make about that. And I
Okay.
just want to say for this show, I know it's unapologetic and free, but that was so weird to hear you say Lekia.
Or for her to say Shar.
I know, right? Like, I get it. We're professional. We're on this show, but that was definitely weird when she's like calling me Lekia. I mean, if you don't mind me saying your age.
Oh, no.
Okay, so she is 22, y'all. So I can't really treat her like she's my baby, even though she'll forever be my baby, my firstborn. So I let her make it because, again, I'm proud and I'm grateful that she even was willing to come on and do this. So you can call me Lekia. I don't mind.
It's not out of disrespect.
It is not.
It was weird for me to.
Right. And even with the Shar, I was just like, okay. But like, unlike her sibling, who felt like he could call me Shar, and I was like, hold up, wait a minute, you're not on that level yet.
That's right.
You are not adult to be able to drop the ante, and then you can't even say Auntie Shar. You gotta say Aunt Nay or Auntie Sade.
Right.
You can't even drop it yet.
And so another thing I wanted to talk about as far as grandparents, right? Because a lot of today's age, and maybe even in the past, a lot of kids were raised by their grandparents, right? They didn't have their mother or fathers, or maybe they were there, but we spent more time. I remember we grew up in a 2-parent household. Our mother and father was there present, but we did spend a lot of time at our grandmother's house. So I feel like a lot of the parenting and everything kind of came to as a result of who we are around. Aunties and uncles took care of us, right? We stayed, we're at auntie's house, we're at grandma's house. So even in that, as we talk about parenting, they had a level of responsibility, right? As parents. And even I'm thinking about when you have kids and you have those sleepovers, right? And you bring other kids, you're in the parent role because now you're responsible for caring for those children. And so again, it's just understanding that parenting is a vague word, right? And that we just really need to understand what that word parenting means. And if we look at it from an aspect of caring for someone else, then we might, conduct ourselves a little bit better, or at least have a better understanding of what parenting is.
Yes, I agree. And those are some very, valid points. Like, parenting is very broad, and we've just, realized there's so many layers to it, from the education point, from a sibling point, from a aunt point, from a grandparent point.
And that's a whole nother thing, right? We can go down a whole nother topic, just talking about step parent, just talking about adoption, foster care, all of those things. And so definitely. But that brings me into who teaches you how to be a parent? Where's the book?
And I think this kind of comes with the debate or discussion of what is it, nature versus nurture? Like you said, who teaches you? Of course, you ask an old person, they gonna say what? The Bible. The Bible teaches me how to parent. But when you get your bundle of joy given to you, it's like, okay, now here, go be a parent.
Now, I will say this, because again, my technical mind, there are parenting books.
Yes.
Right? There are parenting classes. We're going to get into some of that a little bit later in the discussion, but there are, to answer the question of who teaches you how to be a parent, there are resources, there are ways to learn. Now, again, the thing about it is that every child is different. So we could say, oh yeah, there's books. Oh yeah, but that's not going to teach you how to parent your particular child.
And even with that, with the parenting books, like you saying, that is another rabbit hole you can go down, because based upon the culture, there's different ways in parenting based upon your culture. And then are there books? Well, we already know there's certain basic needs that kids need, right? So of course you can get the basics. I got to feed you with milk, or I'm breastfeeding you, diapers. Okay, you need clean clothes, but then it becomes preference after that. Like, what your preference is.
Right.
Once you get, the basic needs down, you move into the preference part.
Because as you were talking, right, I can picture coming home from the hospital with Kamiyah, right, and getting her in the bed and just holding her and just sitting there and thinking, what do I do next? Like, that was the question. Like, I was like, okay, what do I do? Like,
I remember.
I can't say for sure that I had ever changed a diaper before. I don't know that I had ever changed anybody's diaper prior to bringing. I mean, we have baby doll, but I can't say for sure. And so it literally was a trial by error, because not to say that I couldn't have taken the steps to do the class, but the reality was I was 21 when I had her. So I just really didn't know.
Age you are now, Kamiyah.
Yes.
So can you think about that? If you were to get pregnant right now, Kamiyah, and have a baby today, do you feel like you would know what to do?
I feel like it's definitely a very different world from, like when you guys are having kids and then me today. But I feel like if I didn't know how, the internet will tell me, I guess. But I think also, maternally, you just figure it out. You after a little while, you get into a rhythm and you know what feels right. So I believe I could do it if it happened to me so soon.
Thank you that it hasn't. I'm grateful. I'm in no rush to be a grandma, so take your time.
Right. And you know what? Now that you think about it, what you said about I don't ever remember you changing a diaper before. Come on, I don't remember.
I feel like I probably did.
Yeah, you did. Shamari.
But even I think about Trey, and I think about Skylar was a year older than Kamiyah, so I still feel like I probably had changed one of their diapers.
Yeah.
Right? So,
but then you got the experience with Shamari, though.
Yeah, maybe. I don't remember, but
yeah, you did.
So yeah,
your bed a couple of times or something.
Arnay, you can't be saying that about people. So anyway, who teaches you how? Trial by error. In Kamiyah's case, she's had an opportunity to help raise her younger siblings, even from my son. So she's had opportunities. So to that point, she learned the basics on how to care, right? But again, we learn by trial and error. But again, anyone who stumbles upon this, maybe you're pregnant right now and you don't know. There are resources. There are class, like Kamiyah said, internet. But now everything on the internet is not the right example of how to do that. And so again, we got to be careful even with what we use as help, right? And again, I know we're going to get into it a little bit later because there's a certain criteria you want to look for. I feel like if you're going to use the internet or if you're going to use books and classes, you want to make sure you look for certain things. But again, the consensus is overall that motherly instinct is going to kick in. And again, it comes back to care. If you care for the child, right, then there's certain things you should and shouldn't do. So I want to transition this into discipline, right? Because we talked about care. To be a parent, you have to care. But then when you care, now it comes the subject or the topic of disciplining children. And what are those do's and don'ts as it relates to discipline?
And I was talking to some students on Thursday in advisory, and we were talking about the challenge question was like, what do you value the most? And I don't even know how we got on this subject, but one of the students made a comment about how her mom will tell her business to her friends and stuff. So I'm sitting there listening and I'm like, what business do you actually have? You know? And she goes, well, it's my business. If I talk to her or something happens that is private, why is she going around telling her friends? And I said, she's probably going around telling her friends because she needs help with how to address the situation, because that's a form of parenting. So one student was like, oh, Miss OKK, you just talking from a point of a parent. And I'm like, I possibly could be, but again, I'm telling you from why the parent does that. But they feel like that's a part of, she said her mom is that's her way of disciplining or something.
By telling her business?
By telling her business. And then telling her you're being an embarrassment to the family because
you're doing this or doing that. Okay, I never looked at discipline that way, but again, what people consider discipline is different. Everybody have their own thoughts, right? Because I'm thinking about, as you were sharing that story, and I'm like, but a lot of times, if we be real, mom is just telling her business. She is. I mean,
when she said it.
We do. Like, parents tell their kids business. Sometimes it's to get advice, but sometimes it's to tell their business, to put them on blast.
I can definitely see the like side though. I can see the child side of like, she's trying to punish me this way, because I remember when I was a kid and you would like in children's church, you would like make your lessons and sometimes I'd be in it and it would be things that exactly happened and you're telling them exactly what I did and how there's a lesson from it. But it's like when you're a kid, it doesn't seem like you're just trying to teach others about something or learn something yourself. It just seems like, yeah, and you did something bad and I'm about to tell every one of your little friends what you
So, I get it. So that, yes, I'm using you as an example, as a lesson, but at the same time, I'm trying to discipline you to make you see how this feel. I'm telling you, you don't do this anymore. And the thing is, hearing you say it, I'm just like, at the time, it never dawned on me that you could even possibly have felt that way, right? Because again, as a parent, it was twofold. It was to teach the lesson and make a point, but it was also as a form of discipline, I guess, for you to kind of feel some type of way in hopes that you would not want to continue to do that. So that is so funny. It's unapologetic and free. I'm not mad at you for going and putting me on blast like that. I think that's a very good example and very funny that you were able to bring that to the light, which is why I will say we wanted to do this with our children, because we want to hear I want to know what were some things that I did that hindsight now you're like, I really didn't like when you did that. I hated being the example.
Okay, so let's talk about, because, I was supposed to have one of my children on this call too, but, warfare is real in regards to this. And so because of some unforeseen circumstances, he's not able to be on the show. But even with him, I look back and there are some things that I did, like I was disciplining, and it was more or less disciplining out of anger and embarrassment, that, I was given spankings and stuff. And it wasn't until, because that's the cycle. This is how I was disciplined. And so then I felt like, okay, this is the same way I'm going to discipline my child, because look at me, I'm okay, everything. But no, everybody, to your, Kamiyah, I think you said, everybody is different. You can't parent. Children are different. So what you do for one child is not how you're going to discipline another child. But I have to give, big ups to the ministry that we are a part of, started teaching me how to be, a better parent, to not discipline out of anger and not discipline out of embarrassment, but to discipline from a place of correction. I'm correcting something. So there's some things that, I look back and I'm like, ooh, yeah, won't do that. Not going to do that anymore.
So how do you feel about discipline, Kamiyah?
I would say, as you know, when you're getting disciplined, of course you don't like it, you don't love it, and you don't see like, why do I have to go through this, or like, why does she need to do this to me? Like, I understand that she didn't like what I did, but that's what I wanted to do, right? Like, every kid thinks that they're old enough and they understand what they're doing, but I think it's necessary. Like, and obviously there's different types, whether it's actually physically being punished or if it's more getting your stuff taken away or like a lecture. But I think it's really important for a kid to know what they're doing isn't acceptable, and they wouldn't know that because they think they know everything about the world, but you've barely been on it. It's been going around for so much longer than you could even imagine. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And so I like that you said the different types of discipline, right? Because I know when I was raising you, the default discipline is you getting a whooping. Like, we just gonna call it what it is, the rod of correction, all of those terms basically just meant you getting a whooping, because that's how we were raised. Like, we got in trouble, we got the belt, and that's your discipline. And you think about what you did in hopes of not doing that again, right? But it got to a point, and it gets to a point as I had another child 10 years apart, where the physical just gets tiring, because it's like, okay, you can't beat your child, and to keep you from then you have to come up with other ways to
you gotta get creative.
Otherwise, it's constantly just whoop 'em, whoop 'em, whoop 'em. And I've learned over the years too that physical punishment is just that's not always it. Like, there are so many other ways that you can discipline that can be more effective now than the physical punishment.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I think that's when you say that, because my dad definitely got creative. He realized real quick that physically whooping me was too much strain on himself, that it's not helping him. So he got creative with it. I remember he switched to a point where I had to exercise. Like, my exercise was my punishment. I had to run laps back and forth down the street, like in my own neighborhood. So it's like my friends or people I knew would have to see me, or like I have to do push-ups or burpees. Like, he would exercise me to death, and that's definitely in the military talking. But yes, that's something I didn't see anyone else have to do in my friends.
And then I remember with my own kids getting creative, whether it was taking something from them and having them, earn it back. Restriction. Okay, you confined to this room. You're not going nowhere, because whooping is not helping anymore. Now I have to get way more creative with certain things to do to you, to get you to understand the ramifications of what it is that you did. And then sometimes that would only work for so long, and then I had to get more creative.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Because like, even now, these new age kids is like, no, the discipline, physical, then you take stuff and then they just learn how to adapt without the stuff. And again, I know there's where, you're supposed to only take it for so long and give it back. But then it's like you run out of things to do. And it's like, what else is there? Like, what else can I do to try to discipline this child? And then it gets to a point, because as parents, where you get tired of disciplining, of coming up with different ways. And then it's like, it's still not helping. They still doing the same thing, right? You find yourself saying, man, I keep telling you the same thing over and over again, and you're not getting it. That's where I am sometimes with the discipline. Like, what else can I do if what I'm doing is not working?
So then that's when we start telling our kids business to other people to get some guidance and some help. Or now it's like, okay, maybe I need to go have you talk to somebody. You may need a therapist. You may need some, medication or something, because I'm trying to do the natural way, and the natural way is not getting me.
I get it. And so I want to do this rating scale. Like, one of the things I thought was interesting about being able to do this with your adult children is to be rated. Like, how do you measure up, right? As parents, do we ever get, like, if we had to rate our parents and then our kids rate us, how do you measure up? And so I want to know, Kamiyah, honestly, on a scale of 1 to 10, and I'm going to let you go last because I want you to think about it. But Sharnae, let's think about, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think you did as a parent? Now, you can answer that based on each child, or you can lump it together and just give yourself a number. 1 being not good at all, and 10 being I was the bomb, I did excellent, I think I'm a 10.
I'm gonna say a 6.
Okay.
Lumping all together. And Kamiyah, I parented you for how long were you gone? Overseas?
6 months. It felt like longer, but it was 6 months.
Okay, so I parented you for 6 months, so you can, give a scale on that as well.
I definitely would say for me, look, I definitely need Kamiyah to go last, and don't change your answer after I give mine. Keep your answer the same. But I definitely would have to say it was a 6. I'm combining both kids, because if I base it solely off Kamiyah, I would say a 5. But since having another child, I learned a little bit more. I'm still learning, because I still got a ways to go before this last one is an adult. And so truthfully, I would say a 6. I'm working my way up to higher, because there's some things that I'm getting ready to do. And again, we're going to get into it, but I feel like I'm working myself up to higher. But right now, truthfully, it's a 6.
My turn.
Your turn.
Well, first, Auntie, I think we all know what happened in that 6 months my mom was gone. Okay. What happened? We all in that area there. But Mom, I gotta say, I was gonna say a 7, even before you said your piece there. But it's just like very circumstantial, it's hard to like say something and say she was good, she was bad, like it's a lot of things you gotta account for and say like, these are the circumstances I had, this is the cards I was dealt, and this is how I handle it. And maybe it wasn't the exact thing I should have been doing at every moment, but it's what I thought was right at the time. So it's like, especially when the last, half of my last portion of my schooling, I wasn't with her. I was across the country. So it's like, it's hard to parent, especially when your kid's not right there by you.
But up until that point, though.
Up until that point, I'd say, yeah, still a solid 7 of like making the best of what she had.
A solid 7, Lekia.
I'm over here about to do some backflips if I could, because the thing about it is that we're our own worst critic, right? And again, by no means, like I said, I know I didn't do everything right. I'm grateful that she said it's circumstantial, right? Based on the situation I was in, I did the best that I could. And I know that there were times when I didn't do the best, but I did the best I could in the situation I was in, right? And so again, I'm grateful that for the solid 7, because again, I know I didn't do everything right. I did the best that I could. And that's where I found my peace, even, being able to do this with you. And her and I have had the conversations offline, but that's where I found my peace at the end of the day, was I did the best that I could with what I had in the situations that I were in. And I just knew that I wasn't the worst parent ever, but I know I was not the best parent I could have been, based on the decisions and the situations and the choices that I made for my life and that affected her. And when I had to do the work of soul searching, right, and really dealing with those things, I had to come to terms with that I didn't make the best decisions. I didn't always have when I thought I had her best interest at heart, I didn't really have her best interest at heart when I made certain decisions. And so I would like to say that if you're a parent, right, you have to really make sure that you're making the best decisions for your children. And we have to make sure that we're not just doing things that's best for us in the moment, but thinking about the effects. That's what I wanted to say.
Right,
How is this decision that I'm making going to affect my children? Sometimes we don't have a choice. Like the decision that I have to make, it's not going to have a good effect on the child, but I don't have a choice, right? So you have to do it. But when you have those choices, try to consider, right, what the effects will be of the children. And I didn't consider that.
But I think that because a lot of parents may not have the mindset to do that, you know what I'm saying? They're thinking of it as, okay, I'm the parent, which we've all, you know, I'm the parent, they're going to do what I say because I'm the adult, you know, and I can see there's times where as a parent, you know, hey, you're going to do what I say because I'm the adult. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I was right just because I'm the adult, you know, and it's like, I'm not, now that I'm, you know, even dealing with my students and stuff, I'm taking a different approach. It's like, okay, well, let's compromise. You know, let me think, let me hear what you have to think about this or say about this. And if we can come to some type of compromise and agreement, because you do have, it's your life. You do have, you know, a decision. And I'm looking at it also as like, okay, I'm teaching you as well how to make those healthy choices and how to, because I don't want to send you out into the world where you're used to people telling you everything to do. And then now that you're out in the world, you don't know how to make your own decisions.
Right.
Yep. I like how you brought that up. It's like a very like old, like response to things was because I said so, or
right.
Because I'm your parent, you're going to do what I said. But I think a lot of the times, like, if you slow down and like try to explain it and teach them why you are doing something, there's a little less back and forth with it and a little more acceptance to what you're trying to get them to do.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very good. Very good. This was good. So here's the question. And this is a question I want to pose to us and then to our listeners. If you're watching, you can answer this question, message us, comment. But the question is, should there be a class required once you become pregnant, right? So like premarital counseling where you can get that before you get married, but should you be required? Should parents, whether single parent, together, should they be required to take a parenting class once you become pregnant prior to having birth?
But for you to say required, there has to be a consequence if you don't. What would the consequence?
Well, premarital counseling is you should. So let's not say required. Should you? Should you take a parenting class when you become pregnant prior to having birth?
I say yes, because they give you breastfeeding classes. So why not?
But that's only if you plan to breastfeed. If you don't plan to breastfeed, then you don't take that class. But once you become pregnant,
you a parent.
The end goal is to be a parent. So should parenting classes be, and to your point, it could be required, meaning the consequence could, and I'm not saying this, y'all, again, we're just throwing things out there. I don't want nobody to say, she said, oh, if you don't go to this class and they take your kids. But I'm just saying, like, should there be, and if there, should it be required or not? I feel like yes, like it should be some level of expectation put on it. Just like when you get pregnant, it's certain tests that you have to take, right? Again, you don't have to. There's women who have not taken those tests, but they encourage you to. Just like when you go to the doctor and they say, okay, you need to have this test when you're pregnant. You need to do this. Then parenting class should almost be like one of those tests that you need to take during your pregnancy.
Okay.
I agree. I would also say yes, that maybe it should be required, especially because like you said, like you don't know, like there's books you could read, and like Shar was saying earlier about maybe it's a different culture like that you're reading about, and like that's not how you want to do it, but you need those outside perspectives and like a different viewpoint on it, because it's like maybe you are stuck in your ways about the way you were raised, that's the way you're going to raise yours, but like if you don't know anything else, how are you going to know whether that's actually the right thing or not? So it's like maybe these classes should be required so you can learn a little bit about maybe a different way to approach it.
I agree. I think it should be required too, because Kamiyah made a very valid point. You'll get a different perspective other than how you were raised and how you want to raise your kid. You could take all these different perspectives and come up with your own way of parenting.
I agree. And again, at the end of the day, like we said, you can't make anybody take the classes, but to transition, because we talk about, and I hear people say, oh, well, it's not, if you don't have insurance, or how do we pay for these classes, right? And so there's benefits before we get into that. There are free resources. I'm sure there are free resources in every area, but benefits of taking these parenting classes, and the industry that I work in now, we call it parenting skills training, right? Because it's like the difference in saying it's a parenting class where I'm trying to teach you how to be a parent versus parenting skills training where we're teaching you skills that you can use to help you in parenting. Doesn't mean that all of these tools are going to work again, but it gives you tools, and a tool is something that you can use, because even when we talk about discipline, there are skills, there are types of discipline that you're taught or that you can learn in order to be able to parent better, to care for your children better. It's called positive discipline, positive reinforcement, right? That positive discipline. And again, there's classes that you can take to teach you those skills to do that. And so one of the programs, I can talk about this, one of the programs that we utilize is called Strengthening Families Program. The thing about this Strengthening Families Program is that it's evidence-based. That means there's been evidence done on the skills, and it's been traced, it's been studies done. People have taken the class, they've reported back positive outcomes after taking this class. And in this class, again, it teaches, and the thing is that it says the purpose in the training, I'm just going to read it, is that it's been found to reduce the risk factors or other negative youth outcomes, including depression and delinquency. So just some of the benefits of participating in a parenting skills class and then learning the skills and utilizing them, it's been proven that it reduces the outcomes of children, runaways, delinquent, depression, alcohol, going to jail, all different types of things, because the skills that are being taught, if they're being implemented at home, then it teaches kids things and tools and ways to deal with like social interactions and just all types of things. Like one of the things that asked that I never even thought of asking this as a parent, when my child would go somewhere, I never thought to say, is there going to be drugs, alcohol there? Like that's not a question that you typically ask, but that they teach you to ask your kids, is there going to be drugs there? Is there going to be alcohol there? Because not only do you want them to think about the fact that you shouldn't be somewhere where there's drugs and alcohol, but then me as the parent, it lets the child know I'm asking, is there any drugs or alcohol there, which is going to hold you accountable. Now you can still lie, but think about that. The chances of, if I just come straight out and say, is it going to be alcohol there? Maybe the child didn't even think about to ask. Maybe they don't know. And so it causes them to say, oh, I didn't even think about if it would be alcohol there. Maybe they know already, right, that it's going to be alcohol there. But again, that's where you're confronting it to give them that opportunity to be honest and make a better decision on, I probably shouldn't go since I know that there's going to be drugs or alcohol. Okay.
But you know what? We used to ask, we asked the question, well, our parents did it with us, and then we did it with our kids. Like, oh no, I have to speak to the parent. Is there going to be adult supervision? Like, if I can't talk to the parent, you're not going.
Right. I still do that. Even now, it's like, oh, so-and-so said I can stay at the house. No, I need to talk to the parent. I need to make sure they said it was okay, that you can even go, phone numbers, addresses, where all of those things. And so that's another one of those skills that they teach, is making sure making sure you talk to the other kid's family and make sure you know what's going on, and not just them, trying to get together and plan this. Because how many times are the kids planning something and the parents know nothing about it?
True. Facts. You know what I thought about too, as you're sitting here talking about the parenting classes and stuff, and the question of should it be required before you have the kid? I instantly thought about when you get divorced, it's required to take a parenting class. Like, why is the class mandatory and required to go through a divorce, but it's not mandatory and required to have a kid?
That's a good point, because it is. I remember, like, when you have kids and you get a divorce, most states, I've done it in two different, the same state twice, had to do parenting classes, right? And had to show that you went to this class, and you had to turn in your certificate. Absolutely.
And present it to the court, but you don't have to do that. But then again, I guess, we say stuff like, okay, we don't want these people up in our business.
And there's no control over how you get pregnant, but they have a say in, because you're going to them asking for the divorce. Think about it that way too. The reason they can make you do it in the divorce is because you're going and saying, I want this divorce, and there's steps you got to take in order to get it. But I mean, there's steps you got to take in order to get pregnant, but that's a whole nother stuff. But
that's a whole nother episode.
Right. Nobody can regulate you having the baby. But again, when the divorce is different. But I'm grateful. If you think about it too, it's a good thing they do have that in place for divorces, because again, it's holding the parents accountable. Okay. Because now we have to learn how to co-parent. Yes. Right. And that's a whole nother show co-parenting.
Whole nother topic.
So again, yeah, I get why they would do it with divorce. And so I said I was going to talk about this is free resources. Look in your area for free resources for parenting skills, parenting classes. I'm almost positive. Again, I'm in the San Antonio, Bexar County area. Like I said, I personally work for an agency that offers it. You can Google free parenting classes. I'm almost positive there's going to be several agencies and several resources that come up for free parenting classes. And so I would encourage anyone, and it doesn't matter how long you've been a parent. My youngest is, look, I don't even know. My youngest is 12 and I'm being exposed to it. I mean, and realizing that there's some work that I still need to do to move from that 6 or that 7 that Kamiyah gave me to get up to that at least 8 or 9.
Right.
I may not make it to 10 until I have some grandbabies, but again, no rush on that. Please don't rush.
But then, like Kamiyah said, like with the age of the internet, you can find parenting classes online. If you don't want to actually go to the place, right, they offer virtual now. It's a Zoom class or Webinex or webinar for anything nowadays. TikTok, although I don't have TikTok.
Okay, and I was gonna say, take the, what is it called? Eat the meat and throw away the bone. Right. So even again, whenever you're doing this, you have to know what's going to work for you. And then also know that it's trial and error, even once you try something, because even in the parenting skills, there's different things that they teach. One thing might work, one thing might not. I feel like y'all didn't try a whole bunch of stuff. I'm trying something new right now, this reward system where we have these points. I have this chart set up and he has designated chores. And when he does them, he gets a point. If he earns a set amount of points, then he gets a reward. And so I've tried it in a bunch of different ways, but we're trying it a little bit different. And so I'm hoping that that's going to.
It's consistency.
Yes, that's the thing, y'all. I'm working on being consistent and working on. But one of the things I want to say too about this particular reward system, one of the things I did different this time is I let him choose some of the reward. First of all, I let him choose the chores. So I let him choose what he wanted to do, right? So whatever we put on there to a certain extent. So I let him choose 3 things and then I chose the other things, right? But then on the flip of the reward, I let him choose some rewards. I let him say, what are some things that you would want? Now, all of his stuff cost money. So I had to add some things in there that weren't going to cost, like watching a movie together, playing one of his favorite games, giving him maybe an extra hour to stay up, things like that don't cost money, that are still considered rewards, right? And so then now I put this little wheel spinner on my phone. So when he reaches his points, then he'll get to spin the wheel and whatever it lands on, y'all, I got to do it. That's the reward. Now, don't tell Jaden this. He might hear me, but some of the stuff he put in there, I took it out already, but he's not going to know that I took it out because he has stuff on there like GameStop game, movie. Like some of that stuff is expensive, y'all. And it's expensive to parent. We didn't even get into the financial aspects of parenting. But yeah, so I put some things in there. But again, like Shar said, I have to be consistent. So I'm really purposing to be consistent with this. But just wanted to give you some ideas of things that you can do as it relates to discipline, right? And or at least the positive side of that, and giving children something that they can work towards. And one of the things too about the classes is like understanding what behavior do you want to see. So the purpose in the chore chart is we want him to do chores. So that's the end goal is for him to learn how to clean his room and to get in the habit of doing those chores and the routines of going to bed at a certain time, because that's one of them. I mean, like taking a shower by a certain time. And so again, those are the behaviors that I want to see. So that's the reason why we're doing the chore chart and the things that I have on the chore chart.
Okay. I really like this episode. This was a really good, free-flowing episode.
And so I do have a final question, I guess, is that Kamiyah, we want to ask you, do you have plans to have children?
Yes, I do have plans to have children. 2 or 3 is the goal.
And how do you know when you're ready? How do you feel like, or what do you think, or how will you know when you're ready to have children?
You know, I feel like maybe it's a feeling, but also it's like, I don't know, when you're settled enough that you can take on that responsibility. Like we said, like you're responsible for a whole nother being. And then, like I said, we didn't get into the financial aspect. So that's another big portion of it. And it's a partnership when you're planning it. So it's between me and my partner. When we decide it's time, when we're ready, we feel like we can do it the right way. And we've looked into all the resources and we feel like we can confidently take on that responsibility and do it properly.
Cool. Shar, any plans for more kids?
No. My students are my children.
I absolutely have no plans. I already told you I don't even want a pet. That's how serious I am, that I don't want any more child or pet-like responsibilities. I'm just done. And that's the thing, making that choice. Nothing's wrong with making the choice to say, I don't want that responsibility.
It's okay.
It is okay to not want. And for those who don't have kids, right? And there are people who feel like they don't ever want to have kids. I feel like if that's the honest choice because you don't want the responsibility, then that's an honest choice.
Right. And there's no, I mean, I know society says that, you know, we should, you know, but no, what works for somebody else may not work for you. So if you don't want to have a child, hey, so be it. You don't have to have a child. Ooh,
Thank you. This was a really, really good episode. I'm excited that we finally got a chance to do it. As always, we look for your feedback. As always, we're looking for topic ideas. So if you have topics, if you want to be a guest on the show, we're always open to having guests on the show. Our email is unapologetic@and2 and free. Sorry, look, I messed it up. unapologetic@andfree 2021@gmail.com. We are on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're on TikTok. You can find us. We also have the podcast now.
Where's the podcast?
Anchor FM. And then also you can find us on Spotify. Also on Apple Podcasts as well.
Apple Podcasts too.
Yes.
So we're making our way.
You can find us. And so we are grateful that you guys tuned in. And again, as always, we love to hear your feedback.
Thank you. See you next